So you guys know I like to rewrite and pre-write stuff, and I like doing it often. In fact, my main niche on this channel has become writing fanfictions of discontinued projects and outlandish scenarios. Well, I usually do rewrites of what ifs, well today I'm actually going to be doing something that I've never really done before. Yes, I continue storylines, but I've never continued a storyline that has already had another confirmed part, essentially predicting what will happen. So in today's video, I'm going to be pre-writing Spider-Man 3 in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and what it should be. Okay, so first off, let's clear some things up before I get into this movie, because it'll be very different to Homecoming and Far From Home. I like them movies, but there is a certain element missing, which is the Peter Parker aspect of the story. And when I say that, I mean a lot of the plot revolves around Tony Stark. Now, while this isn't a bad thing for a character starting out like Spider-Man, I think this is where he should eventually branch off and have a Peter Parker story told, not a Tony Stark one. I think it's finally time that this happens. So in this movie, a Peter Parker story will be told. Spider-Man's identity has just been revealed, and this was a great way to tell a Peter Parker story. Our story starts off with the same scene at the end of Far From Home where J. Jonah Jameson reveals that he is Spider-Man. People from the streets start shouting at him, telling him that he is a villain, he's a scum to people like the Avengers, and gives them a bad rep. The scene focuses in on Peter, similar to the Far From Home scene where everything fades out and Peter becomes numb to the situation. We see his reaction, we get to feel with Peter Parker in real time, we get to feel with him in this scene. The scene fades out and we get the Marvel Studios logo, nothing but silence, no joy, no hope, silence. It gives the audience time to think after being reminded of what happened in the last movie. It shows us that this is now serious, and it's more serious than ever. We get a slow motion montage of Peter in school and everyone is looking at him. He looks at MJ and Ned who stand next to each other, and Peter has a blank expression, almost crying. They both know that this is bad. Very, very bad. Everyone stares Peter down and he goes into the principal's office. The principal and Peter have a conversation. He says that Peter has to lay low for a while, so bans him from even coming into school. He also says that the authorities can't touch him until they have more concrete and solid evidence of him being Spider-Man. Peter asks him though, "Do you think I'm Spider-Man?" And the principal doesn't even respond. Peter leaves and we have a scene with May and Peter. They're having dinner. May tells him that everything will be okay and they'll figure something out, and that she can talk to Happy about all of this and get something sorted. Peter says that you don't need to talk to Happy. May says that he needs to get it done. Peter argues back. He says he just wanted one breakaway on vacation and still didn't get one because of Mysterio, and now he's exposed little of what the only life he had away from Spider-Man. He says that he didn't even ask for these powers in the first place. Peter storms away and goes into his bedroom and sits there. He picks up a picture with him and Tony Stark and just cries. Peter wishes that he was still here to guide him, but then he throws it away. He chucks it at his wall in anger and smashes it in frustration. If he was never recruited into that Civil War battle, he would never be in this position, constantly being monitored by S.H.I.E.L.D. and everyone. The weight of the world on his shoulders. You see, this Peter Parker has grown, and I firmly believe that if this Peter Parker was to participate in Civil War, he would firmly be on Cap's side now. You see, with the whole identity crisis thing and him learning that always being in the big leagues isn't a good thing, Cap would be more appealing to Peter now. And it isn't just blindsided by surface level accusations that blamed Cap for being a war criminal, instead it's his views and ideologies. We then get a scene with Dimitri from Far From Home. He is on the phone with someone. It's an ominous number. The man's voice on the other end of the phone can't be made out properly, but he says he will pay handsomely for Spider-Man's demise as he could mess with his plans. Dimitri says how much. The man explains that it's in the millions. The man says that they now know Spider-Man is Parker, and he's gonna pay someone to do it. Dimitri asks why. The man says to ask no questions and just to get it done. Dimitri knows he can't take out Spider-Man on his own, so needs a distraction while his genius works behind the scenes. He says he might know someone for the job. As the shot lingers, Dimitri pulls his face off to reveal the Chameleon, and that he has been waiting for an opportunity like this for a very long time. You see here, Dimitri from Far From Home will actually be the Chameleon and will have been a spy all this time. You see, he is a spy behind the scenes for some other supervillain that will be set up in this movie, but could potentially be used for an Avengers movie in the future. In other universes, this man has been strictly tied to Peter, but in the MCU, this character will be more involved with the effect on the rest of the universe as a whole, thus why he sent a spy, Dimitri aka Chameleon, into S.H.I.E.L.D. and cahoots with Nick Fury. We then get a scene with our main antagonist of the film, Kraven the Hunter. He is a live television hunter who hosts a show on American TV where he goes over to other places like Africa to hunt the wildest animals. Kraven on the surface, when we see him through the TV show, will be a confident beast, but off camera we get a scene with him that introduces us the man behind Kraven, Sergey. Sergei Kravenov is an alcoholic. It is revealed that his wife Calypso had passed away for some time ago, and Sergei went down a dark path. Even though Kraven is the technical antagonist of this film, Sergei Kravenov is the real villain. Kraven is a facade that allows him to escape his life as Sergei. Sergei, despite being a show star, has money problems due to his alcoholism, which is when he gets a call from Chameleon. It's revealed that these two are actually half-brothers. However, they're not that close. They're very distant with each other, as obviously Chameleon went off to be a spy and Kraven stayed in Africa. Chameleon sympathizes with Sergei and addresses the money problem that he has and that he can help him. He says that Spider-Man's identity has been revealed in New York and someone will pay handsomely to have him removed from the equation. Kraven says that he doesn't care about Spider-Man and anything in New York anymore, as that is revealed where Calypso died. Kraven is also independent. He likes to do a lot on his own, so he declines the offer. Chameleon tells him that with his strength and hunting ability, they can split the check if they work together. Chameleon tells him to make an episode about it on his TV show. Kraven does need the money though. He battles with himself. He knows he shouldn't, just in case he could end up while spending it on more drink, but decides to anyway, as he really does need the money. He needs this. He wants to make things right in his life. You see here, Kraven's character is almost a parallel of Spider-Man in this movie. Sergei hides behind the identity of Kraven just as the same way Peter hides behind Spider-Man when he goes out fighting crime. This adds a relatability aspect between these two characters and humanizes Kraven, not just making him another villain in the Marvel Universe, but a pitiful, sympathetic character who only wants to improve his own life and break out of his own shell. Unluckily, the only way he can do that is by taking down Spider-Man. And that's how these two paths cross. Then we cut back to Peter and we'll have a few scenes where Peter is with Ned and them two discussing how this will affect their lives. Ned cracks some jokes just like he did in Homecoming and Far From Home, keeping it consistent with the overarching tonality of these movies. But then because of Peter's sudden character realization, he won't be able to bounce back. Because Peter is growing as a character, he realizes his mistakes with Mysterio and from the last movie, and realizing that not everything is all sunshine and rainbows when he is growing up. Peter later that night will be on his way to see MJ and will be swinging in the Spider-Man costume, and it will be a slow swing through the city. The city is used here to realize the scale of the situation. Then a crime is happening down below. A woman has just been robbed. Spider-Man swings down and helps the woman out by stopping the robbers. This will be a slight callback to Homecoming in the montage scene. Spider-Man hands the woman's handbag back and cracks some joke like, "You should watch it," or something of the sort. The woman just stares at Spider-Man and tears up and runs away, like he's some kind of monster. Even the people that he helps hate him. It was so serious to Peter before, but this is when it hits him. We then get a couple scenes where Peter is with MJ and will allow these two characters to grow, as well as I feel like these two don't get enough screen time together from Far From Home. I really want these two to build a realistic relationship and believable loving relationship with each other. They're just kids out in the big world and I want to build on that. MJ won't fully understand what Peter is going through and Peter won't that much himself. Peter will explain to MJ what he said to May, that he didn't even want to be Spider-Man. This will be a scene where Peter explains to MJ how he became Spider-Man and everything that happened leading up to it. And Uncle Ben can be thrown in there for a mention if you really want. MJ tells him that he's not happy being Spider-Man, then he should stop. He wasn't born for this life. There are others out there like Thor, the Avengers, etc. Peter thinks about it and then we get a scene where he gives up the mantle. Spider-Man no more. He is convinced he needs a break. Peter Parker doesn't want to be Spider-Man anymore. Not only is this affecting his life tremendously, but he could get his friends and family hurt. He couldn't lose anyone else, not after Tony. We'll then get a few scenes in between where Peter gives up all his Spider-Man stuff and May is trying to convince him not to, but he's having none of it. Peter meets with Happy and gives his stuff back. Happy says that he'll be letting Tony down if he just gave it all up, and Peter argues back saying that, does anyone ever think of him? He's just a school kid and he's done everything he can but gets nothing in return. Happy reminds him that this is about his responsibility as Spider-Man. This will sort of be a callback and reminder to the responsibility speech, as we've never really gotten it in this universe. This is what we call character regression. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys, but this is the most outlandish thing I've done with any Spider-Man yet, and that is regress him from one of the core ideologies. However, it makes sense. All through Far From Home, he just wants a break and never gets it. So this will be his breaking point where he finally gives up, and it works. We may not like it as an audience, but that's the point. Peter is in the dumps and we're rooting for him to get back to the top. Then we will have a funny scene where the authorities get a search warrant to Peter's house. They come in and find nothing related to Spider-Man because obviously he gave everything away. They jokingly ask him if he's some kind of spider cave in reference to Batman and the Batcave around here. But Peter just laughs and says that he isn't Spider-Man and doesn't know why they got him mixed up in the first place. When they leave, it's a sigh of relief from Peter and May, and it'll be a little funny scene. Then Kraven the Hunter arrives in New York with his TV show and camera crew explaining that he's here to hunt the newly exposed Spider-Man. The Chameleon had provided Kraven with new equipment like gas bombs and the like to hunt Spider-Man down. We cut to Peter, who is with MJ. They're at Peter's apartment cuddled up on a chair watching TV, and this will actually be the first time MJ goes to Peter's apartment. We get a funny scene where May comes home into the room and asks if they want anything, and Peter gets embarrassed. May and MJ introduce themselves to each other for the first time, while Peter cringes. Then on the news is with J. Jonah Jameson, who says that Peter Parker may not be Spider-Man as authorities searched his house and found nothing. However, the case is still not closed just yet. It cuts over to Kraven's TV show where he's asking for Spider-Man, and MJ looks up at Peter as he just sits there and doesn't do anything. An era of awkwardness fills the room. We then get a scene with Kraven after the show has ended with Chameleon. He tells Chameleon how Spider-Man won't show himself and how that's it and they should pack up and go home. Then Chameleon threatens him and that the man behind the scenes will kill him if he doesn't comply and hunt down Spider-Man. Kraven stands up to his brother and says why should he have to do his dirty work. Chameleon says because if he won't, then he won't live if he doesn't. The man behind the scenes has many connections. Chameleon mentions Peter Parker saying that he is Spider-Man and it's all over the news. Why can't Kraven realize this? It's because Kraven doesn't care. Kraven says that he heard it might have been disproven though. Chameleon says that he knows and to trust him. Kraven replies with I can never trust you, which adds a little bit of beef and a little bit of backstory to these two brotherly characters. Chameleon tells him the way to draw Spider-Man out is to take someone he loves. Kraven says he can't just do that, he's a kid. Chameleon reminds him of what's at stake. We then skip through a few more scenes with Peter, MJ, Ned and May and delving into those characters a bit more, until returning with Kraven when he's on the hunt for Spider-Man. Peter's on a walk through Central Park with MJ on a date. Peter mentions how he's glad his life is back on track. Then Kraven appears out of nowhere. He said he got Spider-Man's scent and that he knows he is Peter Parker. Peter says he's not. Kraven says that there's only one way to find out and he takes MJ. Peter, out of desperation, has to go after her. Peter jumps from building to building, trying to find out where he went. Peter realizes that he's taken her, leading Peter into a trap. Peter has to get a costume so no one sees him. Peter goes home and has to wear the old homecoming proto suit because he hasn't got any of his other stuff. He swings out into the city after Kraven, but it's not heroic. The camera movements, they're fast, they're edgy. This swing is spiteful, not heroic. He lands and sees Kraven. He almost seems mad. Kraven says that he will give him one last chance. Turn himself in and stop hiding from the fact that he's Peter Parker or witness MJ die. He fights Kraven. They have a massive fight. You can see how Peter has improved skillfully over the last couple of months or so since Endgame. Spider-Man beats Kraven. Kraven is down and then Chameleon can be heard in the background over a loudspeaker saying that he knew Kraven would be too weak to take him down. That's why he has planted charges around New York City to draw him out. He can't save everyone. And then Peter Parker, along with killing Mysterio, will have allowed thousands others to die. And this is when Peter has a realization that he was being selfish all along. If he had taken down Kraven earlier, then maybe he could have prevented this. Peter realizes that other people are in danger and not just the ones he cares about. With great power does come great responsibility. Spider-Man gets MJ to safety. Peter asks Kraven where the bombs are and Kraven doesn't know. He tells Spider-Man that he never wanted any of this to happen. He was threatened into taking him down, to taking MJ and doing what was necessary. He needed the money. He was motivated by getting his own life back on track, thus making Kraven relatable, thus making Kraven a human character. Kraven reveals his identity crisis to Spider-Man 2 and his willingness not to give up was an inspiration, even though he never likes to be bested by his prey. Kraven says that he will help Spider-Man take down the bombs. Peter is hesitant at first but doesn't really have a choice. They team up and take down the bomb until they're on the last building. They find the bomb. They get all the people out until one person says that their child is still in there. Kraven says he will go. Spider-Man says no. Peter goes up into the building and tries to find the child. He can't. Then Kraven enters. Spider-Man says that he's got it. Kraven says that more hands on the situation can help. Kraven finds the child, however the bomb has a couple of seconds till detonation. He chucks the child towards Peter who backflips out of the window and the bomb goes off with Kraven inside. Spider-Man lands and hands the baby to the woman. The woman looks back at Spider-Man and says, "Wow, you really are a hero," which parallels the moment from earlier in the film. Spider-Man screams as he goes back up into the building to find Kraven, but he's dead. Kraven died a hero, and in Spider-Man's place. He redeemed himself. He died so Spider-Man could live to fight another day, to save another life. Instead of dying at the hands of who was behind all of this, he died a hero. He died so Spider-Man could live to fight another day and to save another life. Kraven was never bad, he was unlucky, and he is forgiven. Spider-Man tracks down Chameleon. It is revealed that it wasn't actually Quentin Beck that exposed Spider-Man because he is actually dead. It is revealed that Chameleon was really the one who framed Spider-Man to be Peter Parker all this time, and he was in cahoots with the man behind the scenes. Chameleon reveals to Peter that he knows he is Spider-Man. Peter doesn't budge and takes him down once and for all. Chameleon goes to jail, and it's revealed on the news that Chameleon framed Peter Parker, and it is left off the hook. No matter what Chameleon says, trying to convince everyone that Peter is Spider-Man, he did wrong, and now no one believes him. And the mystery to who the masked vigilante is lives on another day. We have a scene where J. Jonah Jameson is pissed at it, and then as that plays in the background, there is a silent scene where Peter meets MJ again, and he just hugs her. There's no dialogue. It's very reminiscent to the Spider-Man 3 end scene. We then have a scene where Happy is about to give all Peter's Spider-Tech stuff back, and Peter refuses. While it was cool to take the mantle of Tony for a while, this entire trilogy was about Peter becoming his own hero, and this identity crisis really did push this forward, and that was the overarching story. Peter says that he has gotten something else in mind. A couple of days later, Peter brings out his very homemade Spider-Man suit that is completely his and original, that he built using his own smarts. It's got web shooters, it's got a belt for cartridges, it's got a spider symbol, etc. It's still got quite a bit of tech, but it's Peter's. We cut to him on the top of a building, and he jumps off it and swings through the city as Spider-Man. Happy looks out of a window and sees him swing past and says, "What the fuck?" And roll credits. Post-credits scene, a man enters a building, and it's revealed it's the Avengers Tower. He says his name is Norman Osborn, and he's the CEO of Oscorp, and he's the one who has just brought this here establishment. So guys, that has been it. Spider-Man 3 in the MCU. Tell me what you guys thought in the comments below. That was good. That was good. I felt good on that one. Tell me what you guys think of this one in the comments below. I don't really know. It was really outlandish doing the whole Spider-Man No More thing again. I've done that quite a few times. It was also in Spider-Man 2 as well. But this one isn't about him, being psychologically damaged. This is about him making his own decisions, which I think is why it's different and it's quite clever. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you want more of these videos, make sure to like and subscribe. I'm bringing out the Amazing Spider-Man 4 and Sinister 6 very, very, very soon. With that being said, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.